Greetings and welcome to this special Musical Passions broadcast sponsored by CityMusic Cleveland. I'm your host, Eric Kish, with my co-host, Jim Merling, and we're here to tell you about the upcoming CityMusic concert at St. Stanislaus Church on May 14th. The concert features 4 chamber works by Beethoven, Schubert, Harberg, and Larson. And with us today are 2 of the musicians who will be participating in the concert, pianist Donna Lee and clarinetist Daniel Gilbert. But also joining us, and this is a real thrill, is the composer Amanda Harberg, whose work Lucas's Garden, a very recent composition, is going to be performed by the quartet. And I and Jim certainly are really looking forward to finding out about what this intriguingly worded or titled composition is about. And it's always a thrill to have the composer actually present explaining what the work is about and some of the musicians who are going to play it. And unfortunately for us, Beethoven and Schubert are not available for this interview, so we will make do with Amanda, and that gives her more airtime. Okay, Jim, a word from our sponsors.
This is Musical Passions, a program that was on WCLV for ages and ages, and is now dedicating a special series of programs to CityMusic Cleveland, which is presenting a special series of concerts in salute to the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage in America, saluting women and their creativity. And we are promoting in particular on this program the concert coming up on May 14th at Shrine Church of St. Stanislaus, which will be live streamed as well as available for you to see it in person if you respond soon enough. We will be featuring some all-time favorites at this concert from composers who are not women nor alive, but we will be featuring in this preview Libby Larson, a contemporary woman composer, and Amanda Harberg, who is not only going to be featured in the concert with her works, but is featured by us here during our conversation.
Jim, thank you. Let's get started a little out of sequence since we've got Amanda here. Why don't we start with her and her composition, Lucas's Garden. Tell us a little bit about your background and your work and what this piece is about. I'm giving you full screen coverage, door to door, wall to wall. And then Donna can tell us what it's like to practice and learn the piece itself.
Thank you,
Daniel,
Eric.
are you playing in this work also?
I will be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Okay. 2 very different instrumental viewpoints to the composition.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you, Jim, for having me. So Lucas's Garden, it's sort of interesting because the piece that you're going to hear has a lot to do with Donna. So the story behind the piece, I can tell you a little bit about myself, but I'll start with the piece. So I was commissioned in 2018 by the Van Doren Company to write a quartet for the same instrumentation, clarinet, violin, cello, piano, the quartet for the end of time instrumentation. And this was for the winner of their annual Emerging Artist Competition to feature the clarinetist. So I wrote a 3-movement work that was very much inspired by my family life. I have 2 kids and my husband, and I had a movement that I really loved, and the other 2 movements I was very dissatisfied with, but I wasn't ready to say goodbye to this one movement. So it was sort of a bee in my bonnet for these 3 years, and I had been wanting to go back to this piece and give it the love that I felt it deserved. And it needed a lot of work, though. It needed some serious rewriting. So then fast forward to this year when Donna reached out, and this was very special to me because Donna was actually, when she was getting her DMA at Juilliard, she was my theory TA. It was a class called Literature and Materials of Music. In my very first year at conservatory, I was 18 or something, and undergraduate at Juilliard, and Donna was our TA. We saw her 3 days a week. She taught every Wednesday. She taught our class, and she was an amazing teacher. And she gave us like a lot of. She was very nurturing also, and for us youngins, us first year students, that was really important. And she just gave us a lot of positive energy and feedback. But she was also a very, very good teacher, and she was tough and very smart and really got us going with our theory. And it was foundational for me. And so when she reached out to me after all these years, it was just very special for me. And I had this piece, and I had heard about Dan. I'd heard that Donna was married to this unbelievable clarinetist, and so she reached out to me about this piece, and I just decided that I was gonna. I'm busy with other projects, but I really wanted to put the time in to do this work, and it felt like this was sort of meant to be. So I was prepared to put everything on hold in January and February. And then fortuitously, I got a last minute commission from the New World Symphony. Their pianist, Thomas Steigerwald, wanted a piece for his recital in April, where he was given free rein to commission composers so that he could premiere these pieces on his April 5th concert. So I said, well, what if would you be interested in commissioning the revision of this piece? And he loved that idea. So Thomas and his friends at the New World Symphony gave the premiere April 5th and supported me financially in the work that it took to get this piece up to snuff. And now I can have this piece to give to Donna and Dan and friends. And it worked out very, very well. And what I did with it, I took that movement that I love and I restructured the whole thing. I put it as the first movement. It's not an orthodox first movement. It is a slow movement, and it's a very melodic movement. It's a typical middle movement. But I kind of liked the idea of starting with this lush, romantic, very inviting sort of music, and then going off and building toward the end. So it's kind of an uphill in terms of the motion, in terms of the drive of the overall 3 movements. It's a 3-movement work. The middle movement is a faster tempo, and it's sort of a dream world. And then the last movement is very fast and athletic and rhythmic and accented. And the last movement is brand new. I wrote it in January. And the second movement is based on the older version, but I changed it an awful lot. The last movement is particularly fun, I think, because it has this new mixed meter, sort of frenetically fast, athletic kind of driving quality. But in the development of the piece, the material from the first movement starts to sort of knock at the door, and then gradually, the fast stuff gets pitted against the lyrical stuff, and the back and forth increases more and more until the point where the material from the first movement just takes over, and it comes back in this very fully realized and triumphant manner. That's the word I'm trying to think of.
Wow, that sounds absolutely fascinating. And I want to let the audience know that Amanda has, in fact, given me a recording of that world premiere performance. And I think I would like to play the last movement afterwards when we finish our chat. Before we do this, Amanda, let me ask the question. Nothing you've said so far prepares me for the title. This is Lucas's Garden. I mean, I hear wild, exciting, romantic. Okay, slow and romantic. I can see a stroll through a garden or looking at some very calm flower beds. But who's Lucas, and what is his garden?
Lucas is my 17-year-old.
I figured it would.
My botanist son. And it's very sweet because with COVID this year, with the lockdown, my kids were doing 100% virtual schooling. So we were all here working all the time in the same little house. And it was actually a great gift. So Lucas, he has gardens both in his room and in the outside, and he's very passionate about growing things. And I have no ability whatsoever to even keep a simple spider plant alive, but but I like the metaphor of growing, of fertility and growing lots of wildlife, and it's a fertile metaphor for me as a composer, and then also the metaphor to the kids as they grow. And it's all about growth, and there's a richness, as if the soil is rich with possibilities. To me, it's about a lot of personal associations, but pretty much all having to do with home.
Since I've got Donna and Daniel with me, tell us a little bit about what it's like to learn a brand new piece that in fact has been given its world premiere a month before.
Well, it's always so fun, to be working on a modern piece, on a piece that's fresh off the press. But it's even more special, of course, when it's written by somebody that and
Sure.
So so this entire process has just been incredibly special, and to have a reason to reconnect with Amanda has been amazing. She's exactly as I remember. Through Facebook, you get to stalk and stay connected with somebody even though you're not talking to them. But it's been extremely special to be back in touch. Amanda's music is exactly as she is. Like, it's so colorful, vibrant, and just really, just brilliant. So it's been so great to get my hands, in the music, and to know also
literally, since you're going to have to play keyboard.
Literally, yes. But then also just so grateful because, as she said, she had so many projects going on.
Daniel, your point of view from the clarinet, which is also two-handed but vertical.
Well, I would say the thing, it's a beautiful piece, and as I learn it, I'm understanding your compositional style more and more, and it's really fun to learn. The thing that binds all four pieces together for me is the extreme lyricism that I notice as I practice, especially the second movement. Well, the opening of the first movement as well. There's a lot in there, and also in the Beethoven, the simplicity yet intricacy at the same time. And the same with Schubert, and the same with the Libby Larson. There's all this extreme lyricism with angst and complexity, and all of the different qualities that make it really interesting to listen to. So, and also I feel like you're a clarinet player because it's very playable. So, thank you for that.
Thanks.
Okay, now let's listen to the final movement of Amanda's Lucas's Garden, the exciting piece that she has just described to us.
Amanda Harberg's work, Lucas's Garden, as performed in its world premiere just last month by instrumentalists of the New World Symphony.
While we're on the subject of Amanda and contemporary music, the other contemporary piece on the program is the Libby Larson song Without Words, which I guess is a title that pretty much explains itself. What can you tell us about that? And is piano and clarinet, right? Not the quartet, just the two of you. Is it causing discord within the family or harmony as you practice together?
No, as long as I behave, everything is wonderful.
Got it.
The piece is quite beautiful. It was written in honor of a friend's father for his memorial service, and it's a very meditative piece. But as with anybody's life, there's a lot of triumphant feeling and angst, and there are many different moods in the middle. But it starts and ends very meditatively. And it's quite a beautiful piece. I think it should be wonderful to hear. And also in relief to Amanda's works and the Schubert and the Beethoven, I think it fits in quite nicely in the program. The writing is interesting because it on the one hand, it sounds quite simple and flowing and easy when you listen, but the rhythms when we're reading it off of the page and playing with each other are quite intricate. We did a performance of it a couple of weeks ago, and at the end, Donna said, "What piece were you playing?"
No, he said he leaves the stage saying, "Oh, that went quite well," and I was like, What piece were you playing?"
Apparently, I played the tempi at not quite where we had rehearsed it, and although it came off quite beautifully when you listen to it, if you're following in the score, we have another try. It's interesting. Some composers, when they're after a certain mood, might write rhythms that contradict each other, like 7 against 5 or 9 against 12. And it can be complicated to put together, but then the effect is something quite different. More impressionistic in a way.
Now we're going to listen to Libby Larson's work, Song Without Words, which is for clarinet and piano, and we're going to hear the first section of that.
we've heard the Song Without Words of Libby Larson, Jessica Chin at the piano with Alexandra Doyle clarinet. And of course, at the concert coming up, we'll hear it by Daniel Gilbert and Donna Lee. Back to you, Eric.
Okay, now Beethoven wouldn't pull any stunts like that, or does he? When we were sort of getting ready to do the podcast, we were doing some preliminary chatting, and I asked Daniel about the fact that the nickname for the trio Opus 11 of Beethoven's is known as the Gussenhower Trio, and Gussenhower is Viennese slang for a sort of pop hit. And this, I gather, is based on an opera aria, right, by one of the contemporary composers that was a big hit.
Yeah, the third movement has a theme that became, in those days, opera and society were probably a little bit more ingrained with each other. And this theme from this opera, one of the themes, became quite popular, and people working in the alleyways, doing normal daily work would sing this melody. And so Beethoven took that melody, and his third movement is theme and variations on the melody.
And the translation of that, so I think it's the translation is before I go to work. So it's a very easy filled kind of character, which is never what it feels like before I go to work. And I find that there's something right at the coda. There's a really great treat in this last movement of the theme and variation. And that I find is very apropos to our lives, because it suddenly goes into a different meter, and it's just so much faster. And again, depending on our tempo that we take, it could really reflect like our true lives of like suddenly trying to get out of the house, looking for the keys, and like making sure the dog doesn't get out. So that's a funny moment to listen for, I think.
Daniel, have you got a clarinet handy and just play us the theme?
Unfortunately, because I ran up here, I left it down in the basement, but I can sing it for you.
Go ahead, as long as you sing it. I know.
Oh, I
know that.
See, it's from that opera.
I'm going to sign off because I have student juries today.
Okay.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you for joining us. Now we're going to hear the Beethoven Trio, just the last movement, the set of variations on this popular tune of Beethoven's Day, which Daniel has so beautifully sung for us. And this is going to be a lot of fun.
Beethoven's Trio for clarinet, cello, and piano is performed by Sabina Meyer, clarinet, Sol Gavetta, cello, and Song Jin Cho, piano. Back to you, Eric.
What I'd like to do now is to get to the Schubert, which the group is doing just the middle movement of that exquisite trio, Opus 99. How did you decide to put that on the program?
Well, I think the theme of our concert, In Search of Peace.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt very organic to come upon this program because of just what we've all been through in this past year, and the turmoil and the anxiety. I think that to welcome beauty in your lives, as much as possible, is what instigated programming this beautiful movement of the Schubert First Piano Trio. But then we also have, equally beautiful is the slow movement of Opus 11, Beethoven Trio. So there's, just the interplay between instruments, especially in this Schubert Trio, is so personal in a way. It's very intimate, but there's just the most sweet dialogue going on often between the strings and piano, and so anyhow, it felt like it was a perfect chance to feature it, even on its own.
And now, in its entirety, we will listen to the slow movement of the exquisite Schubert Trio, Opus 99, which is so in keeping with our theme of In Search of Peace. This is one piece of music that certainly does that.
A beautiful piece of music by Franz Schubert from his trio, Opus 99. That performance was by members of the Emerson Quartet, Philip Setzer, violin, and Davis Finkel, cello, and Wu Han at the piano. Back to you, Eric.
Well, Donna and Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time to do this podcast with Jim and me, and for sharing your insights into the music and for talking about your experiences. It's been very interesting and I think enlightening on how you deal with new music as well as old, and it is really appreciated. Thanks also to Amanda Harberg, who had to leave early in this podcast because of other commitments, but she gave us some tremendous insights into how a composer thinks about a work and then puts it together. And I am really looking forward to hearing it complete with you guys on the 14th. All it remains is to say that there will be one more podcast, and this is going to be for the concert on June the 4th. We're hoping to see all of you back, not only at St. Stan's, but also to join us for this introduction to this fabulous series of concerts that CityMusic has been putting on throughout this crazy COVID year. Bye for now.
This has been Musical Passions, a podcast arisen from the radio program long dedicated to presenting performances by the finest artists of this and the last century. Now, we are presenting a special series presented by CityMusic Cleveland, highlighting works by women composers in their special 2020-21 concert series in commemoration of the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage and women contributions in the United States. The live streaming will be of the concert on the 14th, and it will be available online beginning on the 15th. Become a friend of the orchestra. CityMusic Cleveland concerts are made possible by audience contributions by individuals such as yourself. I'm Jim Merling, speaking for Eric Kish, saying thank you so much for joining us.